Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends and fellow human beings, I trust that you are well, and I welcome you to this webinar presentation where today we will delve into the topic of negative states. And by the term negative states, we are talking about everything from stress, misery, anxiety, depression, loneliness, anger, grief, insecurity, fear, loss, trauma, shame, etc. And that image that you see of me here, where I am holding my head in my hand and looking all sad, well, that image is symbolic of what it means to be in a negative state. It represents the immense suffering of a negative state. And so together in this webinar, we will go far, we will go wide, we will go high, and we will go deep on the subject of negative states, where you will learn everything that you need to know about why you have a negative state of being and how to overcome it. So please do allocate at least a few hours from your schedule so that you are free from distractions and can really focus your attention on what you are about to learn. And what will you learn today? Well, this is an extensive webinar where you will learn about the functions and causations of human psychology. You will discover the psychology behind why you think and feel the way you do. And therefore, whatever you want more of in your life, but it never happens, and whatever you want less of in your life, but it keeps happening, you will learn how these outcomes correlate with your psychology. And in particular, we will explore the subjects of the conditioned mind-body, learned behaviors, the fixed identity, the problematic character, the negative feedback loop, and about what it takes for you to overcome the negative states that you experience in your life. And you will learn so much more. And after you have watched this webinar, you will be enlightened, educated, and empowered with the knowledge and awareness that you need to make key breakthrough changes in your life. You will come to know important things about you that you didn't know before. And what you will learn will blow your mind. It will blow your mind wide open with life-altering epiphanies that radically shifts your perspective. And that's a good thing, because what we perceive, we achieve. And therefore, a positive shift in your perception is what you need to start cultivating a life that expresses your truest, highest, and fullest potential. So for certain, this is a webinar that you don't want to miss. And at the end of this webinar, I will give you an open invitation to join the Mind Games exclusive membership program and community, which is an online platform created by me that provides you the psychological knowledge, tools, techniques, and strategies to help you cultivate mental and lifestyle wealth. And it's mental and lifestyle wealth creation together, because you can't have one without the other. Because the game of life is first won or lost inside the mind, where the quality of your psychology determines the quality of your lifestyle. Which now brings me to, who am I? Who am I? Why should you listen to me? And why should you trust me? Well, let me first properly introduce myself. My full name is Russell Paul Arthur Bishop, and you can call me Russell or Russ. Whatever works for you is fine with me. And to explain who I am, I will keep a long story long. And so I stand here before you today with a story that has a history of tragedy and triumph. And to describe that history, we need to go back in time, where, as a youngster, I grew up within a place known as Essex, which is a county on the outskirts of London in the United Kingdom. And I was born into a family environment that was a classic rags to riches story, in that during my childhood, my parents had come into what's known as new money, and as a result of that new money, I became what is known as a spoilt brat. I was given everything and I valued nothing. And I did everything that a spoilt little brat would do to cause mayhem and mess. Now fast forward, by the time I was 16, I was a weekend drug abuser and binge drinker. I was abusing cannabis, LSD, ecstasy, and whatever booze that a little rascal like me could find and guzzle down his gluttonous neck. Fast forward some more years, by the time I was 34 years of age, I was a raging and yet functioning cocaine addict and alcoholic that had somehow managed to settle down with a woman, father 3 children, build a business that afforded a somewhat extravagant lifestyle. And it was the kind of extravagance that meant I had a luxurious motor yacht moored down on the south coast of England. And I don't say that to boast. In fact, far from it. Because back then, on the outside, it looked like I was living this postcard, picturesque lifestyle of wealth and success. Yet the life I had cultivated was one of immense stress, huge debt, and I was abusing drink and hard drugs in which to ease the suffering and get some pleasurable escapism from a life that, quite frankly, I wasn't coping with. I had cultivated this monstrosity of a life where I was a slave to the money and on this daily hamster wheel of trying to service these huge debts just to keep the luxurious lifestyle going. I had cultivated a lifestyle that was distressing me, that was untenable, that was violating every aspect of my true nature. I had become someone I was not meant to be. I'd become a rags to riches archetype. I'd become a version of my parents. I'd become this cultural ideology. I had become this perversion of the real me. My entire life was a reflection of everything that society had projected onto me. But here's the thing, I didn't know that at the time. I didn't know that I was living this fake life as a fake persona. I didn't know that I had constructed this huge, egotistical, narcissistic, sociopathic, delusional, and somewhat predatorial persona. I didn't know that I was wearing a fictitious mask. I didn't even know the real man behind the mask. I was so busy looking for myself out there in the world and trying to pursue the quote-unquote successful life, trying to get the status, the money, the possessions, and whatever else would float my boat, that I hadn't discovered nor developed who I was in here. I was so utterly concerned with trying to be the big I am that I had constructed this persona, this mask that hid away the little I am part of me inside. That hidden part of me was the part of me that was deeply fearful, insecure, ashamed, unknowing, and stupid. As a result of living a feigned life as this fake persona, I experienced the immense stress and struggle of juggling a lifestyle that was ill-suited for me. And I became addicted to powerful, mind-bending and soul-destroying drugs, which led to a complete and utter breakdown. And it took place in slow motion. Over many years, I started to slowly come undone and unravel into a cataclysmic mess. And because I was so ungrounded, disordered, and with a gun-ho persona that pulled the trigger first and asked questions never, my history is one of misstep after misstep, one of many failed ventures, big mistakes and massive consequences of which I endured immense hardship and suffering, where over the course of about 8 years I went through 5 failed careers, 4 failed businesses, 2 bankruptcies, asset repossessions, a hard split from my partner that ended up in the courts, and separation from my 3 children, in which I have experienced 3 mental breakdowns, a financial rock bottom, where I've been homeless for long periods of time, and where I have even had brief spells of living down and out on the streets, where I was so broke that it was just me, a tent, and some clothes. And they are the kind of life experiences that make you go, ouch, that really hurts. And throughout most of that, I suffered in silence, with every bridge to the people that I loved blown to smithereens and covered in a dust pile of broken promises. I had no one to turn to. You see, back then my life was a bitter, sour symphony. It was a bad orchestration of feeling worthless, purposeless, loveless, and hopeless. And it got so bad at one stage in my life that I submerged into the cold and desolate depths of an apocalyptic despair, of which I was severely depressed for over 1.5 years and living in abject sorrow. It was the kind of depression that left me bedridden for many days at a time, where I would often remain indoors like a broken hermit. And it was a time of my life where I despised every genetic fibre of the barbaric ogre that I thought I was. In every way that I viewed myself, I was a grotesque mess, this empty shell of a man, this shadow of my former shadow, where my entire life had ripped apart and disintegrated into nothing, where I spent many years of life bouncing along a hard rock bottom, unable to catch a break, unable to experience happiness, security, or love, where I was in this constant state of negativity, pessimism, and nihilism. It was a really awful time, and a kind that I would not wish upon anyone. And yet, despite all of that, I'm still here. I'm still standing, and I'm feeling happier, stronger, optimistic, and more loving and determined than ever. Today, I live a life that is the full embodiment and expression of my truest, highest, and fullest potential. But how? How did I go through all of that tragedy to emerge triumphant? Well, as the result of a monumental lifestyle collapse and psychological breakdown, during one specific day in my past, I experienced this awakening event. It was during my lowest ebb, my darkest hour, when I was unable to see any beauty inside the beast, when I realized that I couldn't carry on with all of that suffering, where I had sadly reasoned that I would rather be dead than continue feeling the excruciating pains of staying alive. I had reached a point where I just couldn't go on as I was. I was sick and tired of making these huge mistakes that caused so much pain. And I had resigned to the fact that it was me, that I was the cause of my affliction, that I could not continue living as me. And what I didn't know at the time was that I had finally surrendered. I had finally surrendered my ego, and in that moment of surrender, I experienced a profound insight and realization. Within seconds, my entire life had flashed before my eyes as though I was an outsider looking into my complete life story with lucid clarity, and for the first time, I could see that I was running away from the truths of me. I was running away from all of the mistakes I had made. I was running away from my fears and insecurities. And throughout my entire life, I was trying so desperately hard to become someone else, someone I thought I should be, someone that society said I should be, someone like my parents and my friends, and in doing so, rather than cultivate the talents, strengths and skills of my true nature, I was following these external influences. I was working towards these cultural ideals of the successful life, where I had mistakenly believed that I needed to earn lots of money, get the status and possessions in which to feel significant, worthy, lovable and likable. And in trying to find out who I was out there, I lost who I was in here. I had developed this outward persona that was vain, superficial and materialistic, where the truth of me, the person inside, was someone I neglected, someone I denied, someone that I criticized and frowned upon, someone that I had persecuted for not being good, strong or worthy enough. Who I truly was inside was a huge part of me that was left unnurtured, undeveloped, unknowing, unloved and living within the fears and insecurities of uncertainty. And so I had built this mask, which was the outward persona, where the outward persona was faking it because my genuine self was too afraid to make it. And as the fake persona, I had become a man on a mission impossible. I was self-deceptive, in self-denial, and living a distorted life that was way beyond my authentic capabilities. I was engaging with life experiences that stimulated the fake persona, and yet they caused immense suffering to the inward person, who was the truth of me. And because my feigned life experience did not feed my soul, there was nothing that could fulfill this growing void within. Inside of me was this growing void of unmet potential. The unmet potential was the innate talents, strengths and skills of my true nature that were neglected and yet gasping with discontent for expression. Who I was deep inside was deeply unsatisfied, deeply upset, deeply disappointed and deeply confused with the life that I was living on the outside. And I was living with such a void of emptiness, discontent and suffering that I needed more and more consumption, entertainment, distraction and chemical alleviation in which to suppress that internal suffering. And it was only when my entire lifestyle had collapsed that my fake persona collapsed with it to reveal the true me. That's because my persona was a superficial mask that was attached to and stimulated by the externals of my life. And once those externals were gone, i.e. the home, the money, the possessions, the people, the experience, everything that had affirmed my fake persona, once all of that was gone, I fell inwards. I fell inwards into this void of unknowingness and nothingness because the person within was so lost, so unknowing and so weak. And so at 36 years of age, after 3 decades of living as this fake egoic persona, and after that persona dissolved, I was left in a place of utter mental desolation. I was this man-child, a person with childish logic trapped inside an adult's body. Those decades of habitual drug and drink abuse, egocentrism and self-denial, they had frozen over my intellect and emotions, leaving me with the mental capacity of a naive, immature and irresponsible schoolboy. And so, as a consequence of my awakening event and realizing that I was this unactualized and undeveloped shell of a man, I then embarked on two massive life-changing journeys. One was the inner journey of self-discovery, and the other was to discover how the world out there actually works. What followed was 8 years of intensive self-development, rebuilding myself from the inside out, which involved extensive research, study, and application of psychotherapy, psychology, philosophy, spirituality, astrology, nutrition, health, and fitness, where eventually I mastered myself. I managed to overcome the negative karma of my past problems and overcome my attachments and addictions. And what I discovered about human psychology is this: that beyond the egoic mind with its fears, prejudice, anxieties, deceptions, limited beliefs, and never-ending unhappiness, I have discovered a sacred realm of inner peace and completeness within me, where I'm happy to be me, the true me, without the need to have anyone or anything else to define myself and my happiness. I discovered that I am pure conscious awareness that is free from the limitations and inferiorities of the conditioned mind, that I am the observer and the creator of my mind, not a passenger of my mind, but instead I am the driver of my mind. I also become more self-knowledgeable and self-aware and aligned with my intuition and spiritual principle, and began to express and develop my true nature. And so, who exactly did I become? Well, I'm not someone that likes labels, but if you want to pigeonhole me, then you could say that I'm a psychotherapist, a spiritual guide, and a lifestyle strategist. And that I have the wisdom, experiences, knowledge, and skills in which to help someone to resolve their mental and emotional issues, help them to discover and align with their innate talents, strengths, and skills of their true nature. And I can assist someone with finding the most effective, efficient, and elegant way of creating a lifestyle of deeper meaning, higher purpose, and greater impact. I am a man on a divine mission that is here to uplift the human spirit and be the exemplar of goodness, prosperity, truth, and love, of which I created the Mind Games brand and community to do just that. And I have also founded the Grace Trust, which is a not-for-profit organization that focuses on humanitarian projects. And so my personal story serves as both the warning and wisdom. I am the living testament that no matter what problems you face right now, with a loving spirit, warm heart, and the right mindset, not only can you rise above circumstances, you can excel to far greater heights. I'm someone that clearly demonstrates that I have been there, done that, overcome this, and here's how I did it. I was that guy who walked the 5 yards of hell and against the odds made a miraculous turnaround and comeback. And what took me half a lifetime to experience, make massive mistakes over and over again to figure things out and then make the corrections to get the right results, by learning and applying my teachings, you can get the lifestyle results that you truly desire in just a fraction of the time. And I also know deep within that your intuitive spirit has guided you to be with me here today. That your need to exalt every aspect of who you are, to awaken and activate the true you. A true you that is loving, abundant and joyful, well, that intention has guided you right here with me. Because there is a part of you deep within that wants you to become more, to express, create, give, and love more. A part of you which is destined for greater achievements. A part of you that is ready for expression. And so, without further ado, let's get straight to the main subjects of this webinar. And let's begin with defining what are negative states.